Kagome! Everyone shouted as they nearly tackled the Miko in a hug once her and INUYASHA stepped out of the bedroom. "We were so worried about you," Shippo cried as he hugged Kagome tightly. "I'm all right now, Shippo," Kagome said as she then hugged Sango and Kilala. "We were so scared we'd never see you again," Sango cried as Kilala nuzzled both girls' faces. "I thought I would never leave you two. Oh, I would never leave you two. You're my sisters, Sango and Kilala, more than Kikyo ever was," Kagome replied with happy tears in her eyes. "Kagome!" Kagra exclaimed as she hugged the Miko with Rin, Ayame, and Izayoi. "I'm so glad you're still alive, my dear girl," Izayoi said happily. "We have an announcement to make," INUYASHA said after everyone finished hugging Kagome. "Kagome and I have decided that after almost being separated forever, that we never want to be apart again. So, we've decided to become mates. Our love is too precious not to treasure," INUYASHA stated with a sincerity that even surprised his mother, while Kagome simply hugged him. This news made everyone cheer. "I'm so proud of you both," Izayoi exclaimed, while Sesshomaru slapped INUYASHA on the back. "Well done, brother." "I look forward to calling you my sister, Kagome," Rin squealed, hugging the Miko again. "Great job, sis," Sango said, hugging her sister, while Kilala nuzzled Kagome's face. "Amazing, INUYASHA. Now, can you show me how I can get Sango to say yes to me?" Moroku whispered to INUYASHA, to which Sango heard and whacked the monk on the head with her boomerang bone. "Well, that's gonna get old really fast," Koga observed as he looked at Moroku knocked out on the floor. "I think it already has, Koga," Ayame said dully. "You said it," Kagura replied. 11 years later. Kagome watched as her and INUYASHA's quarter-demon 4-year-old daughter, Miroha, played with her half-demon cousins, Toa and Setsuna, Rin and Sesshomaru's half-demon 4-year-old twin daughters. Miroha had her mother's spiritual powers, her beautiful sparkling brown eyes, her long dark raven hair, which was in a high ponytail held by a red bow, while she had her father's demon powers, fangs, bangs, and at times his attitude. She wore a red toga and cape made from the hair of the fire rat of her father's robe, which could be used to make endless clothes, with its regenerating powers. Toa, the oldest of Sesshomaru's and Rin's twins, wore a light purple toga. Her white hair was short and in a high ponytail, and she had dark purple-pink eyes. Setsuna, Toa's younger twin, had light purple eyes, wore a dark purple kimono, and her long black-brown hair was in a low ponytail that was also in a bun, and covered part of her face. "Miroha, it's time to get ready for bed," Kagome called out to her daughter from the doorway of the great dog demon's palace courtyard. "Aww," the three girls whined as they hurried over to meet Kagome, who simply smiled. "Now, Toa, Setsuna, don't you two go complaining. You both need to head to bed, too," Rin said, joining Kagome in the doorway. 11 years have passed, and not a day goes by where I don't thank fate for this new chance at life." Kagome trailed off in thought as she looked at the sunset in front of the castle. "Mama?" Miroha questioned as she tugged on her mother's sleeve. Kagome nowadays wore a light green kimono with yellow cherry blossoms on it, tied up with a blue obi around her waist. "Oh, I'm sorry, sweetie. I was just thinking about how happy I am to be here after 11 years after my 18th birthday. And after meeting your father." The Miko trailed off. "Can you tell me that story again? About you and Papa when we get back to my room? Please?" Miroha begged with big puppy eyes that were nearly impossible to say no to. Kagome smiled at her daughter as she picked her up and balanced her on her hip. "Of course. And your father and Uncle Sesshomaru are home. I can sense them." Miroha perked up. "I can sense them too! Papa, we're in the courtyard!" the little quarter demon shouted, and sure enough, INUYASHA and Sesshomaru entered the courtyard through the front gates. "Papa!" Toa and Setsuna called out to Sesshomaru as they and their mother rushed over to hug him and hugged him close, which the demon lord himself returned gently. "Hey, how are my favorite girls?" INUYASHA asked as he rushed over to Kagome and Miroha and hugged them both close. After INUYASHA had saved Kagome from becoming the sun 11 years ago, Sesshomaru and him ruled over their father's lands together, as equals, and when Toa, Setsuna, and Miroha were born, the brothers decided the three girls, when they became the right age, would rule over their grandfather's land together themselves since they were born around the same time. We're great, Kagome replied, kissing her mate's forehead. How is the overseeing of the wolf demon tribe's new territory? It's safe enough. Koga, Ayame, and the rest of their family will be happy there. INUYASHA replied, Papa, I did really well with my Miko training today. I could easily detect you and Uncle Sesshomaru with my spiritual powers. Muroha exclaimed excitedly as her father held her and her mother close. I bet you did. You're powerful like your mother, INUYASHA said proudly. And let's not forget you also have your father's demonic powers too, which you're also being trained in, Kagome added, hugging her giggling daughter. And a party, and you didn't invite us? A male voice called from above, mocking hurt. Everyone then looked up to see Kilala flying above them, with Moroku, Sango, and their 3 children on her back. The oldest was a girl named Kinu. She was 10 and had light brown eyes and brown-black hair like her mother, only hers was shoulder length, and she wore a light green kimono. Gyokoto was Kinu's younger twin, who looked just the same as her, only she wore a light pink kimono. While both girls were really alike in personalities, Kinu had spiritual powers like her father, and Gyokoto was Muroha's lady-in-waiting, like her mother was to Kagome. Finally, there was Sango and Moroku's young son, Hizui, who was 8 and was training to become a demon slayer like his mother, and he had his father's blue eyes and black hair and a short ponytail and wore a blue toga. Moroku, Sango stated, shaking her head, making her low ponytail sway back and forth as her boomerang bone rested on her back, while she wore her pink kimono and green skirt. Sango, Kilala, Moroku, kids! How was the visit to Kai and Kaede's graves at the rock pit? Kagome questioned once the little family had landed. It went well. I hope you didn't miss us too much, Sango teased as Kilala let everyone off her back and let Sango and Moroku's children pet her as a thank you. And afterwards, the feline transformed into her smaller self and rushed over to greet Kagome, INUYASHA, and little Muroha. Hi, Kilala, Muroha squealed as she let the little kitty jump into her arms and hug her close while she nuzzled her face. Hi, Hizui, Setsuna called, rushing over to greet Sango and Moroku's family. Hizui blushed upon seeing the half-demon princess. Hi, Setsuna, the boy stuttered. Oh, young love. Reminds me how we started out, to some degree, my dear Sango, Moroku cooed as he held his wife close, who smiled softly and blushed. I know, right? It took you almost a year to get me to say yes to your proposal, Sango giggled. Hey guys, I'm back, Shippo called from the air in his pink balloon form. Shippo, how is training this month? Rin asked as she held Toa in one arm and held Setsuna's hand in the other, while Sesshomaru had his arm around her shoulders. Great, I was able to transform into a giant snake, the little fox boasted as he turned into his little fox form and landed on the ground. Shippo! Kinu and Kyokoto shouted as they tackled the fox boy to the ground, who cried out in protest. All right, girls, let him up, Sango scolded lightly. And on that note, let's get you to bed, kiddo, INUYASHA said as he took Muroha in his arms, and as she still held Kilala in hers. Aw, can't I stay up? The quarter demon begged, but INUYASHA only chuckled and shook his head. No, you need your rest. Your mother and I are going to see your Aunt Kagra tomorrow. I know, but I don't want to wait. I want to sing now, Muroha pouted as Kilala nuzzled her face. After being granted freedom from the sun, Kagome made the habit of going on adventures with INUYASHA and their friends, while that included singing with Kagra whenever she wished, so she could share her beautiful voice with everyone. That is, until everyone had settled down. Then Kagome made the point of going to sing with Kagra and going on adventures with just INUYASHA, and when Muroha was born and old enough, she was able to join them once she was able to walk and talk and develop a great singing voice, like her mother, and she learned how to play the mandolin. I'll tell you what, why don't you sing for your father when we get to your room? We can do it together, Kagome suggested. Muroha perked up at the offer. Okay, let's go, she teared as she let Kilala transform into her big form and give her a ride up to the balcony on the 2nd floor of the palace. Well, that didn't take long, INUYASHA snickered as he then picked up Kagome bridal style before following their daughter and Kilala. They turned to their friends and wished them good night as they too went inside. After Kagome and Muroha sang a few songs together, INUYASHA and Kilala before she went to bed herself in Sango and Moroku in their kids' room, the two grew quiet. Can you two tell me the story of how you met now? Moroha asked sleepily as her big brown eyes began to droop. Sorry, sweetheart, it's getting late, Kagome stated as she tucked her daughter in and began to lie down. Aw, then will you tell me it on our way to Aunt Kagura's, please? Moroha whined. Kagome and Inuyasha smiled softly at their daughter. Of course, they said at the same time as they kissed Moroha's forehead and got up to leave as she dozed off. Are you excited for tomorrow? Inuyasha asked his wife as they both gazed up at the stars and the crescent moon in the skies. Yes. Does your mother want to come along? Kagome asked. She laid her head on her husband's shoulder as he shook his head. No, she claims she's getting too old for a long trip like this, he chuckled. Well, me and little Moroha will have to put on a personal show for her when we get back, Kagome said, turning her attention back to the sky. What are you thinking about? Inuyasha asked sweetly, holding Kagome close as she sighed contently. About how lucky I am to have you, Moroha, and the rest of our family and friends. And how none of this would have been possible if you hadn't come to my rock pit seeking the sun relic. She trailed off sweetly. Yeah, but I don't think your sun powers were the real gift of the sun. The real gift was you. Inuyasha hugged Kagome close and kissed her as if he never wanted to let her go. She too kissed back as if her beloved Inuyasha was more precious than life itself. The end.